रत्न सिंहासने किबा बसे आचन गौराचन रत्न सिंहासने आरती करे ना ब्रह्मा आदि देवगणे आरती करे ना ब्रह्मा आदि देवगणे केबा नर हरि आदि करे चामार डोलाय किबा नर हरि आदि करी चामार डोलाय संजय मुकुंद बासु घुष आदि गाय संजय मुकुंद बासु घुष आदि गाय किबा शंख बाजे घंटा बाजे बाजे करताल किबा शंख बाजे घंटा बाजे बाजे करताल मधुर में दंग बाजे परम रसाल मधुर किबा बहु कोटि चंद्राजिनी बदन उजाला किबा बहु कोटि चंद्राजिनी बदन उजाला ओ कोटि चंद्राजिनी गलग देशे बनमाला करे जलमाला गला किबा शिवा सुख नारद प्रेमे गद गद किबा शिवा सुख नारद प्रेमे गद गद Bhakati Vinoda Deke Gaurar Sampada Bhaka Jaya Shri Krishna Chai Tanna Prabhu Nitya Nanda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga Jaya Gaura Hari, Nitai Gaura 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 Hari, Gaura 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 Hari, Jai Sachinandana Gaura Hari, Jai Nadia Bihari Gaura Hari, Mayapura Chandra Jaya Gaura Hari, Maya Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Baladeva, Jai Subhadra, Jai Jagannath, Jai Baladeva, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Baladeva, Jai Subhadra. Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami, Nayana Pantagami, Bhavatu me. Sitaram Jaya, Sitaram, Sitaram Jaya, Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha. Jaya Radha Nil Madhav Radha Nil Madhav Radhe. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Radha Shama Sundar Radha Shama Sundar Radhe. Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe. Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. जय विश्वपात ब्रह्म से परिवार जय श्री माता जय भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की जय इस्कॉन फाउंडर श्री प्रभुपाद की जय नाम आचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कौशिक कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवशादी गौर भक्तबिंद की राधा कृष्ण गौ गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की गंगा मैया की जमुना मैया की भक्ति तबी तुलसी महारानी की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे जय पतिवान गौर निताय जगन्नाथ वसुधा श्री श्री राधा नील माधव लक्ष्मण लक्ष्मण राम लक्ष्मण सीता हनुमान सुबह संध्या आरती की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे. All God's simple devotees Hare Krishna, all God's simple devotees Hare Krishna, all God's simple devotees Hare Krishna, all God's Shri Guru and Gauranga, all God's Shri Prabhupada ki. Namaste Narasingaya, प्रह्लादलाददायिने हिरण्यकशिपुर्वक्षः शीलटनकानकालये हितो नशिमा परतो नशिमा हितो हो यतो यतो यामि ततो नशिमा बहिर्न सिंह हृदयेन सिंह नरसिंहमादिं शरणं प्रपदे तव करकमलबारे नाकमद्भुत सिंहं दलितालिरन्नकशिपु तनुभृङ्घं केशवधृता नरहरिरूप जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे नाकमद्भुत सिंहं लिरन्नकशिपु तनुभृङ्घं जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवधृता नरहरिरूप जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवधृता नरहरिरूप जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय लक्ष्मी नरसिम्हा जय लक्ष्मी नरसिम्हा लक्ष्मी नरसिम्हा जय लक्ष्मी नरसिम्हा जय प्रह्लाद महाराज प्रह्लाद महाराज प्रह्लाद महाराज जय प्रह्लाद महाराज प्रह्लाद महाराज प्रह्लाद महाराज जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 भक्ति विनोद सदा भगवान की जय भक्त प्रह्लाद महाराज की जय श्रील प्रभुपाद की निताई गो प्रेमानंदे हरि।
That's okay. What? Okay. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivaradari Gopi Jana Balaba Giridhari Yashoda Nandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Dira Janwari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivaradari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Dira Vanachari Shamuna Dira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balava Girivaradari Gopichana Balaba Girivaradari Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Jamuna Dira Banachari Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Jamuna Dira Banachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Radha Nila Madhava Ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Jan Om Aganyati Mirandasya Yananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhistam Srapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatahapajkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsa Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Vitam Tam Sajivam Saidvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaguna Lalita Shri Vishaka Nivitamsa He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopita Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srimad Bhagavad Gita Grantha Raja Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana Ki Jai Gaur Premanandi Haribol Haribol. So there's a very interesting statement made by Sri Ramana Maharshi of Madras, who was a famous South Indian yogi. And he was asked once, what is the difference between God and man? And he gave a very clever answer. He said that God plus desire equals man, and man minus desire equals God. So that is basically untrue, but it sounds really clever, and it sounds very enticing, because it feeds the false ego of human beings. In other words, if a human being eliminates all desires, he becomes God. And God, he may have a foible that if he has even a little desire, he becomes an ordinary man. This, of course, is junk. It's not true. It's very far from the truth. It's misleading. And it is a typical example of what's called impersonalist jugglery of words. And I'm going to explain this now. First of all, whether it's Ramana Maharshi, who was considered a very prominent yogi in his time, and he still has a following. However, the original Yogeshwara, that's the name of Krishna, Yogeshwara, it means that he's the Ishwara, he's the king, or the supreme, let's say, uncontested, no one equal to or greater than him, master of yoga. Now, what does yoga mean exactly? There might be different understandings of it, but basically it means connecting to God, coming directly in, let's say, a relationship with God. That doesn't mean you become God, but you enter into an eternal relationship with God. So it's also known as Yogeshwara, means also master of mysticism. Well, what is the greatest mysticism? That is, coming in intimate contact with God. Okay, so let's analyze things and see if what Ramana Maharshi, does he repeat something that Krishna said, or does he say something that Krishna never said and is contrary to Krishna consciousness? If we look in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita called Karma Yoga, there's verses 4 and 5 are very interesting. Verse 4 says, Na karmanam anaramban, naiskarmyam purusho snute. Nacha sanyasanad eva siddhim samadhi gacchati. And the translation is, not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. So, abstaining from work, meaning you sit in some solitary place and just meditate, or by renunciation, you renounce your house, you renounce your car, you renounce your shirt and tie, you renounce everything. But Krishna says that you don't attain perfection simply by renunciation, nor do you attain perfection in spiritual life by abstaining from work. In the purport or explanation to this verse, Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada says, the renounced order of life can be accepted when one has been purified by the discharge of the prescribed form of duties, which are laid down just to purify the hearts of materialistic men. Without purification, one cannot attain success by abruptly adopting the 4th order of life, sannyasa, or total renunciate. According to the empirical philosophers, simply by adopting sannyasa, or retiring from fruitive activities, one at once becomes as good as Narayana, or God. But Lord Krishna does not approve this principle. Without purification of heart, sannyasa is simply a disturbance to the social order. On the other hand, if someone takes to the transcendental service of the Lord, even without discharging his prescribed duties, whatever he may be able to advance in the cause is accepted by the Lord. Buddhi Yoga. Swalpam apiyasya dharma shatrayate mahato bhayat. Even a slight performance of such a principle of devotional service enables one to overcome great difficulties. Okay, now this verse, 3rd chapter, 4th verse, is very informative because it basically pulls the rug under the feet of the impersonalist philosophers like Ramana Maharshi and many others. It says, not merely by abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. So, this is also explained in more depth by Krishna in the 4th chapter, where he says, one second, let me find that verse. So Arjuna believed that by abstaining from work, one can become free from karmic reactions. Krishna rejects that thesis. And he tells Arjuna, well, already in the 3rd chapter, the 4th verse, he's telling Arjuna that simply by abstaining from work, one does not attain perfection, nor by renunciation does one attain perfection. So Krishna never asked Arjuna to give up work. He did ask him, however, to fight in the battle of Kurukshetra. So, and Arjuna, by fighting, not for self-aggrandizement, but simply to please the Lord, he became the most renowned and sincere devotees of the Lord in all history. He's an eternal associate of Krishna. Every time Krishna appears in the material world, Arjuna is with him. So this idea of renouncing everything is incomplete renunciation. Why is it incomplete? Because if you renounce something that could be used in Krishna's service, but you don't use it, then you're not complete in your renunciation. And if you refuse to act and not follow Krishna's instruction, then you're actually incurring karmic reactions by doing that. So this is what is not understood by even Ramana Maharshi. When he says, what's the difference between God and man? He says, well, the difference is that God plus desire becomes man, and man minus desire becomes God. So that's a completely misleading representation of spiritual reality. And Arjuna is the example of it. He didn't, he wanted to give up all desires. He wanted to give up all actions and just become a yogi, a so-called yogi, and meditate. And Krishna, who's Yogeshwara, the supreme yogi, the supreme master of all mysticism, he said, no, I don't accept that. And that is what we're discussing today. So in the next verse, 3rd chapter, 5th verse, Krishna writes, Nahi kaschit, Krishna says, Nahi kaschit sanam api, jatu tistati karmakrit, karyatehi avasa karma, sarva prakritir jayar gunai. Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. So, after hearing this verse, we have to ask the question, who should we believe? Should we believe Ramana Maharshi, or should we believe Krishna, who is Yogeshwara, who is the master of all mysticism, who is the supreme yogi, who is Param Brahma, the supreme personality of Godhead? So, obviously, Ramana Maharshi has deviated from the instructions that Krishna gives. Therefore, his point of view is nullified. Krishna is the summum bonum of all perfections, and he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he possesses all opulences, beauty, knowledge, power, wealth, fame, and renunciation. He is the master of all yoga. He is the beginning and the end and the middle and the end of everything. He is the original source of everything spiritual and material. He encompasses everything in his form of Virat Rupa, or the universal form. He is present within everything as expansions of the Purusha avatars, or the Vishnu incarnations in the material world. And still he's aloof from everything, not affected by whatever happens in the material world. He has created the modes of material nature. He's created the material nature. He is time, and he is the ultimate goal of all Vedic knowledge. So, if Ramana Maharshi says something that contradicts what Krishna says, therefore we should reject it. So his very clever phrase in the answer, what is the difference between God and man? He said, God plus desire equals man, and man minus desire equals God. This is a complete nonsense answer. There's no Shastric evidence to support what he said. So therefore, in the purport, the 3rd chapter, 5th verse, that says, everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. Now, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada goes even further, and he says, it is not a question of embodied life, but it is the nature of the soul to be always active. Without the presence of the spirit soul, the material body cannot move. The body is only a dead vehicle to be worked by the spirit soul, which is always active and cannot stop even for a moment. As such, the spirit soul has to be engaged in the good work of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, it will be engaged in occupations dictated by the illusory energy. In contact with material energy, the spirit soul acquires material modes. That means goodness, passion, and ignorance. And to purify the soul from such affinities, it is necessary to engage in the prescribed duties enjoined in the Shastras. But if the soul is engaged in his natural function of Krishna consciousness, whatever he's able to do is good for him. The Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.17 affirms this. Tyaktva swa dharmam charanam bhujam harir bhajan apakpo tapatet tato yadi yatra kwa babadram abud amusyikim kovarta abdo bhajatam swadharmataha. If someone takes to Krishna consciousness, even though he may not follow the prescribed duties in the Shastras or execute the devotional service properly, and even though he may fall down from the standard, there is no loss or evil for him. But if he carries out all the injunctions for purification in Shastras, what does it avail him if he is not Krishna conscious? So, the purificatory process is necessary for teaching this point of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, sannyasa, or any purificatory process, is to help reach the ultimate goal of becoming Krishna conscious, without which everything is considered a failure. So that means that one must have the guidance of bona fide spiritual mentors or gurus, and they are the Siksha gurus and the Diksha guru. And because such people have a very high threshold of accountability. They cannot be a guru unless they correctly and consistently repeat the instructions of Krishna. Anyone who deviates from Krishna's instructions is rejected. They cannot be a guru. So Ramana Maharshi has violated that principle with his very clever answer. But the truth is that you cannot stop actions. It's the nature of the soul to be active. And And obviously, the impersonal yoga practices of people like Ramana Maharshi and others is to stop all actions and stop all thought and stop all desires. Now this, of course, is impossible. And you cannot stop indefinitely desires. And that's what's being said here. Whether you have attained a position transcendental to the modes of material nature, still, you may try to stop desires, but they will still come. So therefore, what is it that Krishna is teaching? He's not saying stop material desires. He's saying that one should dovetail one's desires into Krishna consciousness. Okay, now what does that mean? Let's say someone likes to make flower arrangements. Well, you can dovetail that expertise by using your talent to make beautiful vases for Krishna and the deities. Let's say you're an expert at singing. So instead of singing silly songs, you can sing the Vedas or recite the Vedas in a very melodic way for the pleasure of the Lord. So that's called dovetailing. You take some talent that you have and you use it to glorify the Lord. So someone might be a good accountant, so they can help the temple keep their accounts in good standard form. Or let's say you're a good musician, so they use their musical talent for the pleasure of Krishna. Let's say you have good managerial abilities, so you manage the temple or some program of the temple and to make it successful. So if we learn to dovetail our actions into Krishna consciousness, or using our acquired talents in the service of the Lord, at that point we become free of all karmic reactions. Karma means activity or actions. So there are two types of actions. Actions that are, Haribol, thank you, that are meant to please Krishna, and actions that are meant to please one's own selfish desires. So when we act to please our selfish desires, we come under the control of the laws of karma. When we act to please Krishna, we're liberated from the laws of karma. So, and this is a point that Krishna makes also, that he can change or he can nullify a person's karma. And that's why he says, Sarvadharman Purityaja, Ma'amekam Saranam Vraja, Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo, Moksisyami Mahasuchaha. He says, give up all your misconceptions and just surrender unto me. And if you do this, I promise you that I will protect you from all sinful reactions or all previous karma. So, previous karma is a mixed bag always of positive and negative effects. And we don't know what they're going to be until they actually happen, because we can't remember what we did in our previous life. And in every lifetime, we commit pious activities and we commit sinful activities. So the pious activities may give us good results in the next life, and the sinful activities will give us bad results. That's why life can seem wonderful, and then all of a sudden there's an accident, and it can completely change your whole, let's say, standard of successful material life. So, or else you can have a very good business, and all of a sudden there's a terrible economic downturn, and you go bankrupt. So all these things are happening every day, or there can be an earthquake, or there can be some robbers, or there can be all kinds of things that go wrong and interrupt your success, material success. And those are all karmic reactions due to activities you performed in previous lives. So Krishna's promised to protect his devotee and to eliminate the good and bad karma of the sincere devotee is actually a liberating, let's say, gesture of the Lord, so that a person can engage in the service. Unless one is free of all karmic reactions, they cannot engage in the service of the Lord. And this is explained in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, he says, 1 second. He says, Yesam tvantakatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvanda mohanir mukta pajantimam dritavrataha. He says to Arjuna, persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. So in order to be engaged in Krishna's devotional service, one must be free of their previous karma. Now, there's no way a person can be free from karma, good or bad karma, unless they are engaged in the service of the Lord. Bhaktiyamam abhijananti yavanyaschasmi tatvata tatomam tatputo yatva vishitetad anantaram. Yeah. Krishna tells Arjuna in the 18th chapter, 55th verse, he says, one can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. Jaya Shri Radha Nila Madhavan. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. So, only by devotional service can we become free of our previous karma, and that freedom gives us a chance to engage in the service of the Lord. Therefore, when people come to Krishna consciousness, we teach them to chant Hare Krishna. We teach them to offer their food to Krishna, vegetarian food, of course. We teach them to bathe regularly, at least twice a day, 3 times a day. We teach them to wake up early, take rest early, and wake up early, and attend the Mangal Aarti ceremony at 5:30 in the morning, and chant minimum 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and refrain from eating any food that has not been offered to Krishna first and prepared lovingly for Krishna, and to dance, and to come out on Harinam Sankirtan and dance and chant the holy names of the Lord, and to regularly hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Anyone who does this will become very quickly free of all previous karma and become eligible to engage sincerely in the service of the Lord. This is the special benediction Krishna affords to his devotees who make sincere efforts to serve the Lord with love and devotion. This is sublime knowledge. We're talking about how to solve all the problems of life once and for all. And what are the problems of life? The real problems are birth, old age, disease, and death. These are real problems. The political problems, the economic problems, and the social problems, yeah, they are there. But they're not as severe as birth, old age, disease, and death. And then the constant repetition of these 4 things due to not taking seriously the purpose of human life. What is the purpose of human life? It's to understand who we are in relationship to Krishna and the material world, and to learn how to use all material assets in the service of the Lord. And by doing that, we become free of the oppressive influence of karma and time and the modes of material nature and their influence on us. Okay, so this is called Atma Tattva, the science of the soul and its eternal relationship to the Supreme Soul, Krishna. Okay, so there is a very important verse also which says that all liberated souls, it says, even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. And Krishna says, now Arjuna, I shall explain to you what action is, knowing which you shall be liberated from all misfortune. And then he says, this is 4th chapter, 16th verse, and then 17th verse, he says, the intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. And now comes the very profound verse that says, Karmaniya karmaya pasyat, akarmanicha karmaya. Sabudhima manusyesu sayukta krishna karma krit. So this verse says, one who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men, and he is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. Now, what does this mean? Well, the first phrase, one who sees inaction in action, that means that Arjuna, when he agreed to fight, he acted, but there is no karmic reaction to it. So that's called inaction in action, because he was simply following the order of the Lord. Krishna insisted that he should fight, but without any personal motive other than to please the Lord, not to gain kingdom or gain money or power or fame, nothing like that. It was simply to please the Lord. So that is inaction in action. There's no karmic reaction for activities like that, where you're serving the purpose of the Lord only without any personal motive. And then secondly, action and inaction, that is the case if Arjuna refused to follow Krishna's order. Therefore, he would receive a karmic reaction for being sinful and ignoring the direct order of the Lord. So, and Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport to this verse, 418, a person acting in Krishna consciousness is naturally free from the bonds of karma. Yeah, that means there's inaction and action, because he's simply following the order of the Lord. Now, what is the order of the Lord today? Let's make that point clear. The order of the Lord today is that we should regularly hear Bhagavad Gita, which is what we're doing right now, and understand Krishna's instructions to Arjuna. And if we follow those same instructions that Arjuna did 5,000 years ago, we will become free from all karmic reactions. We will merit the protection of the Lord, personal protection of the Lord, and we will live very successfully in this life, not incurring any more karma, and thereby not being forced to take birth again, either for good or bad reactions. And we will go back to Godhead and solve all material problems, because we'll get in a spiritual body and it's not subject to birth, death, old age, and disease. And we will discard this mortal covering of our soul called the material body. So His activities are all performed for Krishna. Therefore, he does not enjoy or suffer any of the effects of work. Consequently, he is intelligent in human society, even though he is engaged in all sorts of activities for Krishna. So, this is definitely clear now. Ramana Maharshi's statement, in answer to what is the difference between God and man, he said God plus desire is man, and man minus desire is God. That is completely wrong. And the example is Arjuna. When he refused to follow Krishna's order, he became subject to karmic reactions. But when he agreed to follow Krishna's order, he became free of all karmic reactions. And he acted by fighting and actually killing people in the battle of Kurukshetra, but not incurring any sinful reaction. So that is inaction in action. But if he refused to follow Krishna's order, then there would be action in inaction. By refusing and refraining from doing anything to please the Lord, he would have become sinful. And he would have received negative karmic reactions, and he would have to suffer for it. So consequently, he is intelligent in human society, even though he is engaged in all sorts of activities for Krishna. Akarma means without reaction to work. The impersonalist ceases fruitive activities out of fear, so that the resultant action may not be a stumbling block on the path of self-realization. But the personalist knows rightly his position as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he engages himself in activities of Krishna consciousness because everything is done for Krishna. He enjoys only transcendental happiness in the discharge of this service. Those who are engaged in this process are known to be without desire for personal sense gratification. The sense of eternal servitorship to Krishna makes one immune to all sorts of reactionary elements of work. So, we'll stop right there, but we see how profound Krishna's instructions are, and any deviation or any, let's say, any attempt to say something different than what Krishna has said should be rejected. This is the quintessential truth. God himself, Krishna, is speaking to Arjuna, but actually speaking to all of us in the Bhagavad Gita, which was spoken 5,000 years ago, and therefore you can see no other book is comparable to this Bhagavad Gita. And nobody's reading a book that was written 5,000 years ago. The Bible is only 3,000 years old. The Quran is maybe 1,500 or 1,500 or 1,400 years old. The Buddhist writings are 2,500 years old, and that's it. So the Bhagavad Gita predates, at least by 2,000 years, these other scriptures. And it's still being read, because everything said in Bhagavad Gita is absolute truth, coming from Krishna himself. So we'll start right there. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavane Ki Jai Gaur Premanandi Haribol Haribol. Thank you.